Peace, salutations to everyone out there. This is Adrian X, and welcome to the Adrian X YouTube. Today we're going to be talking about the wisdom of the eagle. But before we get into the wisdom of the eagle, I'm going to light up the Palo stick for good positive energy. And I'm also going to light up my sage as well. So, stay tuned as we get in tune with everything here momentarily. I'm also going to read an African proverb, before we actually get started. So we can set the tone and preface the lesson before we actually get into the wisdom of the eagle. So, and I'm also going to invite people to the room so people can tune in to what's going on. All right. I'm going to light this up as well to bring in good energy and ward off negative energy. And I got Ampu as a protector as well. So you're gonna start it off right before we actually get into it. Gotta start it off right. And I'm gonna invite people to the room so people can tune in. Alright. Bringing the positive vibes here. So, with that being said, welcome to the Adrian X YouTube. And check me out on other platforms as well. I want to say check me out on Anchor, Adrian X Podcast. You could check me out on Spotify, Google Cast, Breaker, and other notable platforms. So just Google me. You'll see my information come up. Okay, so the first things first, let me actually invite people to the room, and then I'm going to get into the African proverb. So let me do that actually first before we even get started. I don't want to jump the gun. I want to invite people in so they can hear, take heed to the lesson. So let me get a few people in the room, and then we gonna get right into it. Remember, guys, you know I like to take my time. I don't like to rush. So I want to make sure I dot all my I's and cross all my T's. Alright, let's get it, family. So, first we're going to read an African proverb here. We're going to talk about the African proverb, and it goes like this. An ass and a fox made an alliance and went out hunting. When a lion appeared in their path, the fox realized the danger that threatened them. And going up to the lion, he undertook to hand over the ass to him in exchange for a guarantee of security. On receiving the lion's promise to let him go, he led the ass into a trap. But the lion, when he saw the ass could not escape, seized the fox first and then went after the ass at his leisure. Okay, the moral of the story of that African proverb is people who permit plots against their own find that to their own surprise that they decimate themselves in that bargain. So be careful who you think you're going to get over on somebody, especially when it comes to our people. When people practice, for example, the 48 laws of power, which I openly advocate against that. If you're practicing the 48 laws of power against your own people versus the oppressors, this proverb applies to you. So that stuff can come back to you tenfold. Karma can come back to you tenfold. So I urge you not to use mechanisms like that to get over on your people. Alright, so that's the whole purpose behind that African proverb. Alright, so moving on, we're going to talk about the wisdom of the eagle. Alright, and there are 7 lessons and meanings behind this, so I want to get into that. Alright, so the number one thing is that eagles fly alone and at a high altitude. Eagles don't fly with sparrows, ravens, crows, and other small birds. They just don't do that. Alright? So, in other words, the meaning behind that is stay away from closed-minded people, naysayers, and jealous people. Those type of people bring you down. So just fly with eagles. Keep good company. In the words of, in my philosophy, it states, I keep my own counsel, but you must keep a good counsel around you. It's one thing to have a counsel. You can have anybody as your counsel, but you got to have right people around you to do right things or righteous things. So keep that in mind when you thinking about yourself as an eagle. Now, I want to give you something, a side note. Think of eagle as being a zoomorphic character or anthropomorphic character. A zoomorphic character is looking at animals in a way that's putting them in a godly-like figure position. Like Anpu, for example, is the god of the underworld. So think of the eagle as being a god, because we should honor animals in reverence anyway. Alright, and then also think of them as an anthropomorphic character, giving animals human-like qualities. So, for example, you can look at Looney Tunes, for example, and see that Bugs Bunny talks like a human being and things of that sort. So just look at the eagle like that. Like, look at it from those angles, from a zoomorphic creature or from an anthropomorphic creature or anthropomorphic creature. So look at the eagle in this particular sense. That's the whole point of me giving a comparison as I go through the wisdom of the eagles. Alright? So the second part would be, since we already went through the first part, the second part would be eagles have an accurate vision. Thus, eagles have the ability to focus on something as far as 5 kilometers away. No matter what the obstacle is, the eagles will not move or remove his focus from the prey until he grabs it. So, in other words, have a clear-cut vision, and remain focused no matter what the obstacles are, and you will guarantee success. Alright? There's a term that psychologists like to use, and it's called commitment device. Alright? Commitment device is a choice that you make in the present that control your actions in the future. Alright? It's a way to lock in future behavior. And it's a way to bind you into good habits and restrict you from bad ones. So a good example would be, you could take a boxer, for example, and if he's attempting to make weight for his upcoming fight, in order for him to avoid being overweight, he may do something to the nature of leaving his wallet at home so he could avoid eating at restaurants. Okay, so that's one of many examples. Another example would be you could take a good example such as somebody purposefully banning themselves from casinos if they have a love or profound addiction to a gambling. Okay, so you would do that to eliminate yourself out of the equation of gambling if you know that's a bad habit. Okay, so moreover, this pretty much helps you make sure that you become a victor of your circumstances versus being a victim of your circumstances. All right, so remember, lastly, always remember dedication, sacrifice, and commitment. Okay, so that's the most important thing that I want you to take out of lesson 2 for the wisdom of the eagle. All right, so moving forward, lesson 3. Eagles do not eat dead things. Eagles feed off fresh prey. All right, so in other words, the meaning behind this: do not rely on your past success. Keep looking for new frontiers to conquer. All right, leave your past where it belongs, in the past. All right, so do that unless you're using Sankofa as a way to look back at the past and in order to help you with your present and your future. That's the only time you should be looking back. Other than that, you should not be looking back for anything in the past. Or also, if you're looking back on the past to educate the youth about something that occurred in the past that'll help them with their present and their future, that's the only time you should be looking back, because that's the whole point of Sankofa. But you should not be looking back in the past and dwelling on it and living in that past moment if it's not helping you become the best version of yourself. All right, so that's the next thing. The next one is eat live foods such as fruits, vegetables, and grains and wheats. Because if you eat live foods, you will stay alive. If you eat dead foods, you'll be dead. All right. And I want to say this because I don't want to sound like that I'm trying to impose my views on nobody. But if you are going to eat something that's dead, you get what I'm saying? If you're going to eat something dead, then eat it little to none as possible. Because African people are naturally herbivores first, omnivores second, and carnivores is really not in our repertoire. But if you're going to be a carnivore, you need to eat meat as little to none as possible. So I say first either be a herbivore or omnivore. An omnivore is a person that eats meat and vegetables and fruit. But I'm a herbivore. Like, I encourage everybody else to do the same. But if your urges is that strong, at least lessen the way you eat meat. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna say on that. And some people may argue, and say, well, we're gonna die anyway. I'm gonna say to that, my rebuttal to that is, that's a very pessimistic view, a way of looking at stuff, and it should not be used as a justification to dig up your own grave faster with your own forks, spoons, forks, and knives. That's just an excuse, all right? So I repeat, if you want to eat dead fried fucking chicken, don't be surprised if you turn into a dead fried fucking chicken. So with that being said, moving on, I want to also say fast food is also the top killer in the black community. So again, I want to reiterate, you must eat to live rather than live to eat. All right? So with that being said, moving on to lesson 4. Lesson 4, eagles love the storm, okay? When clouds gather, the eagle get excited. The eagle utilizes the storm's wind to lift itself higher, all right? Once the eagle finds the wind of the storm, the eagle utilizes the raging storm to lift itself above the clouds. All right, this gives the eagle the opportunity to glide and rest its wings. On the other hand, all the other birds, such as the sparrows, the ducks, the chickens, and all the other birds you can think of, they hide out somewhere. They have somewhere to be. They're in the branches, they're in the leaves of the tree, or wherever the case may be. All right, so the eagles don't. They weather the storm, they embrace it, okay? So in other words, achievers are not afraid of challenges, all right? Whether they relish them and they use them profitably, all right? Through resistance comes success. In other words, have self-preservation, all right? And become bigger than your problems, all right? Because your problems are not going to go away just because you go this way or you go that way. You still going to have to face them problems anyway, so you might as well become Andre the Giant to your problems, all right? So there's an old proverb that states, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor, all right? So just remember that, okay? So lesson 5, all right? When a female eagle meets a male eagle, she tests him for commitment, okay? So you don't have to look at it necessarily for a relationship or companionship, but whether it be in private or business life, you should test the commitment of the people intended for partnership. Let me say this, if you put a person to the test and they give up with ease, then chances are they're more likely to give up on you in the future. And more than likely, that person wasn't meant for you anyways, all right? But if you put a person through a test and they passed it without giving up so easily, then that pretty much says in the long run that they won't give up on you in the future. And chances are that person is meant to be in your life, whether it applies to business, friendship, or companionship, okay? So, moving on to the next part. All right, so lesson 6, it says pretty much eagles prepare for training, all right? So you also want to prepare for training, okay? Because eagles remove the feathers and soft grass in the nest so that the young ones get uncomfortable and preparation for flying, and eventually flies when it becomes unbearable to stay in the nest. All right, so in other words, you got to leave your comfort zone. There is no growth in your comfort zone, all right? So you got to do that. And when you commit to something, committing to something means that you're doing it not only when you feel like doing it, but also doing it when you don't feel like doing it in spite of your feelings, and learning how to overcome that. So that's what real commitment stands for, all right? And the last part of this lesson is when an eagle grows old, they hurt themselves for new feathers, okay? So we occasionally need to shed off old habits, similar to the likings of a snake when it sheds off its old skin to have new skin, all right? This brings me to my next point, which means difficult things that burden us or add no value to our lives should be let go immediately, all right? Get rid of negativities and bad habits that do not serve you or others no good, all right? So with that being said, I say all this to say, be an eagle, and I hope that you truly gain something from this. Ubuntu, Uhuru, Namaste, Adrian X. Remember, follow me on my YouTube. Hit that like button, that share button, and that subscribe button. Follow me on Anchor. Follow me on all of my social medias, Adrian X on YouTube, Twitter, and all of them, Spotify, Breaker, Google Cast. Salute to all my peoples out there, from grassroots to international. Peace.